Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign. Today we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Stories 2, the Steam version. Just going to give you a full review on how I feel about the game, from the different aspects, different mechanics, and my general feel for the game over the past 80 to 100 hours or so. So I suppose we should start off with what I don't like about the game, and that is the story, and some of the characters. I don't play games like Pokemon for the story, I play it for the collection of different Pokemon. Getting the best stats I can get, getting the best Pokemon that you can get, trying to make them as strong as possible through breeding and all that kind of stuff. Now, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is pretty damn similar to Pokemon. I would say it's actually better than the most latest Pokemon. I wasn't a big fan of those at all. It went a little bit too over the top for me. So I'm quite happy with the way Monster Stories 2 has set this up. The gene system is pretty damn decent. There is a little bit of a grind involved that you do, which I don't mind, especially if I'm trying to build up and I can see a noticeable difference in the power levels of my monsties that I'm actually growing to make stronger. Now, the story is actually quite short if you're pushing through the entire thing from start to finish without actually doing any grinding in between. But I spent like 40 hours actually just trying to get the right eggs, trying to get the right genes on those eggs, trying to get as many larges and extra larges as possible whilst doing the story, so it prolonged it quite a bit. Which was good because I'd probably just jump out of a window if I had to run through the story and just the story the whole time. I will have to say that if you are playing the game in English, you'll do a much better job if you stick the actual language in Japanese, so you don't have to hear that bloody cat say buddy over and over and over again. That was driving me up the bloody wall. But when I changed it to Japanese and I had sort of English subtitles at the bottom, yes, I could see it say buddy every other sentence, but you get called Ryder-san instead of buddy all the time. Like, I was getting so irate with that whole thing. With that cat is just annoying as shit. The guys had a good laugh at me every time I'd get triggered by the way he spoke in the Discord. It wasn't a fun experience for me. But what it lacked in story and the way that the characters were done, it made up for, as I said, with the gene system. It made up with the different types of monsters. Now, there ain't that many at the moment compared to previous Monster Hunter games. There's a hell of a lot of reskins, especially later on, where it's just the same monster with different colors, and then you obviously have a different ability, whether it's technique or power or speed. And the bosses had pretty good variance on you having to drop your strategy on them, figuring out what parts to break first, whether to use your power attacks, your technique attacks, or your speed attacks, setting up your monsters so you can do double hits, etc, etc. There are some decent mechanics, especially when you want to start grinding out some XP. You do have the ability to go to a zone lower level than you, and you can auto kill the actual mobs you're fighting to get XP, and you can do it a lot quicker, so the grinding is a little bit less of a chore. So you just go in, hold shift and spacebar on the Steam version. I'm not sure what it'd be on the actual Switch version, which I was going to buy, but I didn't end up doing that. I ended up going on the Steam version. And there was an issue with the Steam version when it came to actually using the keyboard. The camera was a little bit of a nightmare. I wasn't too happy with the way they had the camera set up. It did move quite slowly when you were using your up, down, left and right buttons to sort of change the direction of the way the camera's looking. It felt a bit clunky to me, personally. They have mechanics like the trials and stuff that you can spam through. Me personally, I love doing achievements and I love getting as many achievements as I can, and a sort of trial system where you have gold, silver, bronze, depending on how well you did, how quickly you did it. So in some, for the highest case one at the moment, you got to do it within 7 turns to kill one boss. If you take up to 15, then you'll get silver. If you take up to 20, you'll get bronze. Yeah, it's sort of like, it helped to take away from being stuck in that boring ass story and being able to change over to do other things. If it wasn't for the story and some of the control functions, I would actually rate this one of my favorite games I've played this year at least. It was a very good game. I'm still playing it now because I want to get all my monsters to max level. I want to give them the best genes and stuff, so I will be playing it for a long time to come still, because that's the main reason I am playing those games and playing this game in particular. I am probably going to have a look at trying to do sort of some challenge modes in the game where I'm just going to start off and try to complete the entire game with just Ranma. I think that would be quite difficult, and it will be quite fun to actually get through the game and do that. The graphics of the game are very pretty. There was some moments where it was a little bit weird, where they had some texture issues on certain things, but all in all, the graphics in the world look lovely. The linear maps, I'm not a fan of. I much prefer the open world sort of stuff, like in your Pokemon and in your Breath of the Wild, where you have a massive open world, you can just go in any direction you want and do some stuff. I think that would have been much better than the linear pathways that it was set inside of this game. But you can't really have everything that you want, but it would have been nice. Now let's talk about the actual multiplayer itself. The multiplayer is a clusterfuck of the highest proportions. It is, so on Steam you can get around it. I don't know if you can get around it on a Switch, but it is region locked. So if you are in, for instance, Spain and you want to do some co-op stuff, there's no one there. There's no one there doing any of the co-op stuff. Now, there might be more people on the Switch itself, because obviously that's what the game was properly marketed towards. It is on Steam, obviously, because I'm doing a review on the Steam version. But if you're playing in the middle of the night, say you do night shifts and you're sitting on a night shift and you're in Spain and your region's in Spain, and you go to try and do some of the actual co-op stuff to be able to get the new dog monsters, which you can do solo anyway. I know you can do all this stuff solo, but sometimes you just want to do some co-op stuff. You want to play with your friends, etc. And those friends are actually region locked. So most of the people I play with are in America. Now on Steam, you can get around it by going into the actual download region and changing that download region to the closest one or the same one as your friends are using. For instance, when I was playing with Barbatos, I would change my download region on Steam over to Miami, and then I'll be able to actually join his game. It took us a few hours to sort of figure this out, some Google searching, and one per random person was like, you can do it over here by changing the download region. And that guy really saved my ass. I want to thank Mr. Random Steam person in the discussions. Sorry, I haven't got your name, but he did help us to be able to get on to do some of that co-op stuff. I'm really hoping in the next iteration of the game, they will have a more open world setting, start off with some more monsters. I hope they do some updates in this as well to be able to add more monsters in so we can actually do some stuff, especially when you get to sort of end game, but they do sort of pair you up with people that are much higher level than you. Now, I don't know if there's a stat squish or a level squish when it comes to actually doing the arenas. I don't know if you're both sort of, your stats are set in between, or if they're set to the lowest level, or they're set to the highest level, or they're not set at all. But it did seem that I kept on getting thrown into with people that were level 80 plus at level 40, and I was just getting my ass handed to me. Because obviously those guys have got much better genes, they got much better abilities, etc, etc. I would say if you're going to play this game and you do have a Switch, get it on a Switch. That's what it was made for primarily. On the Steam version, it's just a port, and it does have its issues, but it's definitely worth giving it a go if you are into the sort of Pokemon style stuff. It's not really the same as a lot of other Monster Hunt. It's not really the same as a lot of other Monster Hunters you have. There's not a massive variation of armors. Some of the armors look really lackluster. I was hoping to be able to get like master versions of the different sets. Maybe that will come later on. So if I really like a set that was really low level, I'd be able to sort of master out, because there's a maximum of level 3 on those armor sets and weapon sets. And that's pretty much how I feel about Monster Hunter Stories 2. It's definitely a good game. Definitely give it a go if you are interested, as I said earlier. I will leave the Steam link in the description and in the pinned comment for you guys if you are interested in playing this game. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember to like and sub if you haven't already. If you'd like to become a member of the Royal Family and get early access to my content, please take a look at the join button down below next to that subscribe button. I want to thank all my current members. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to continue doing what I'm doing, as YouTube doesn't pay as well as it used to. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.